Great job.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Leanne. For more than 145 years, Kohler has been the industry leader in design and technology. From the conversion of a cast iron horse trough into a freestanding bathtub, to the portfolio of products, smart home products that offer hands-free flushing or voice-activated showers, Kohler's mission is to enhance the lives of those who, the consumers who, and installers and specifiers who are touched by our products and services every single day. Please see us in the North Hall, booth 2205. Now to kick off our panel, it's my pleasure to introduce our moderator, who I'm sure you will all recognize, Jill Waage, Editor-in-Chief of Traditional Home. Jill has been an advocate of these two industries coming together since the very beginning, and we thank her and the Traditional Home team for their support. Let's welcome Jill and our expert panelists, Jamie Briesemeister, Giles Sutton, Ryan Hurd, Michael Wolf, and Peter Cook.
Thank you, Jason. All right. We're going to start with a quiz. Okay, audience participation. So throw out some words to us if you would to describe your relationship with technology in the home. How do you feel about it? Love it?
Who loves it? Who loves it?
Love
Come
it?
on.
Hate it?
Hate it.
Scared
One
of it?
two.
Worried? Wary? Nervous? Unsure? All those great words. Then a show of hands of how many of you are comfortable specifying that kind of product in the projects that you're working on. Any hands? Anyone? There's some confidence. That's good.
A little bit, yeah.
That's awesome. Well, this panel of experts and passionate folks in this category are here to help strengthen that relationship between designers and technology integrators in a way that you think of a tech integrator to be your partner in your projects, to help you bring what your clients are asking for and help you solve some solutions for their problems. So I'm going to have each of them, and they'll have a very different perspective. The prep for this was very interesting. My job here is going to be very small because they will run with this in very interesting ways. But I'm going to have each of them introduce themselves to you and tell you where they come from in the home technology space so you can understand when they're making their comments where the knowledge comes from. We'll start immediately to my right with Jamie.
Thank you. My name is Jamie Briesemeister, and I have a company called Integration Controls out of St. Louis, Missouri. We are a home technology integrator, which means we design, install, procure equipment, program everything to work well, and then service after the sale for mostly homeowners, although we do some light commercial work as well. I work with the design build community to make sure that technology does not impact in a negative way their design.
Giles, next.
Thank you. My name is Giles Sutton. I'm Senior Vice President of Industry Engagement at CEDIA. CEDIA is the global member association for companies that install technology in the residence. We have a technology solution pavilion downstairs where we have a stand and we have a number of our members there. In fact, there's a lot of members here that are on this panel as well. Prior to joining CEDIA, I was also a technology integrator like Jamie and others on this panel. So, and I worked primarily with designers and architects delivering solutions to their clients. So that's my background.
Awesome. You're up next, sir.
I hate going after this guy. He sounds so sexy, I gotta tell you. He's a rock star. My name is Ryan Hurd. I'm actually your NKBA Technology Insider. I've been in the tech field for 29 years. I literally wrote the book on it called Join the Smart Home Revolution. And now I've been focusing on helping our loved ones live in place for as long as possible and keeping their independence through the use of technology.
Mm-hmm. I'm Mike Wolf. I've been talking or writing about the smart home since 2001 or before. I wrote a book about it in 2001. For the last 5 years, I've had an event called the Smart Kitchen Summit, all about looking at technology and how it's changing in the kitchen, and how it's changing things like cooking. And I also have a news site called The Spoon, where we write about breaking news around anything that's changing in terms of cooking, food tech, and how we eat.
Awesome.
And I'm Peter Cook. I own a company by the name of Automation Design in the Midwest out of West Michigan. And I've been doing this for 27 years and kind of got started in the smart home. This is why my company's name is Automation Design. Back when it first started, it was very MacGyverish. And fortunately, I've seen as it's evolved over the last 25 years, and especially in the last 10 years, how it's just rocketed it to where it is today. And obviously, it's been interesting to see how it's evolved and where it's going, and just to see this industry continue to take off. When I first got started, I thought it was going to be a boom back in the late 90s, and now obviously we're 20 years later, and it's just really taking off. But it's exciting, and there's a lot of great things that are happening, and really excited the fact that companies are finally starting to think about lifestyle and experience, and not just the technology.
Absolutely. So discuss amongst yourselves, because I know there's some opinions in here. There was potentially a disagreement and a debate that was brewing up in the prep call. That where is that smart technology, the tech integration, where does it stand right now in the kitchen and bath? We talk about the slow adaptation, or adoption, I should say, of the technology, which I agree with you, it's taken a long time to get here. Where do you think we are right now in that spectrum of advancement and adoption?
I'll start it off. So we just did lunch, and we talked about the kitchen design, technology kitchen design, that we asked a bunch of questions from our consumers, our designers, and our integrators, and we also talked about the bathroom technology. This is, the past 2 years is the first time I've ever seen the show floor talking more about lifestyle and less about the gadgets. As an industry, we've always been talking about the gadgets, the doohickeys, the thingies. And now we're really starting to talk about how can it help me as a human. And we're seeing that. Now, with that said, I challenge anybody in the audience to design a kitchen and not use smart appliances. It's kind of like trying to get a phone that has regular push buttons. So kicking and screaming, we're going there, but it's actually fulfilling a problem that we have as humans. And how do we become, let's say, better cooks, or in the bathroom, how do we get that spa experience, which includes music and so on and so forth. So what do you guys think?
I mean, I think we're in maybe the first or second inning of where we're going. I mean, sure, you're designing in connected appliances, but by and large, and I do agree, we're actually moving towards more systemic solutions-oriented approaches. I think GE's demo at another show that was about 2 weeks ago, showing off this concept of like adaptable kitchens is really exciting. Yeah. Think about why do we have one-size-fit-all kitchens? Why shouldn't I have a personal profile and my kitchen be shaped around my personal preferences? So that type of thing, I think, is coming. But I think by and large, we're kind of still in those fairly early stages in terms of where we're going.
Yeah.
I think when we talk about kitchens, I think, whether it's gadgets or appliances, I know we've got the likes of Monogram appliances, for example, you mentioned GE, that are going through a process of all of their appliances being connected. I think the importance from a designer and an architect perspective is the importance of a sort of readiness, of actually making sure that the kitchen and bathroom is prepared for all of this tech. So I think that's where really sort of CEDIA members help and integrators help, is to ensure that the homes are ready for all of these devices that are coming. Wi-Fi hasn't been designed for this abundance of technology. So I think that is really where the conversation should go.
Right. That's why I thought it's fascinating to watch millennials move into the home space, because they're the first ones to march into home ownership with that technology in their pocket and right. used to that ability to click for an update and an upgrade, and it's not scary. So I think that's an exciting part of it. That segues nicely into kind of, I think, the next question that there's so much more to think about beyond just appliances or just a kitchen remodel, that when you're involved in doing a kitchen or a bathroom, you're opening up those walls. It's not just about the appliance, it's about so much more. And I think we talked a little bit on the call, like, what's the technological hub of the home? What room is that? And traditionally, we had a little discussion what traditionally and what the shift has been.
Well, and I think there's another important point that we need to understand when kitchen design is, and you're looking at a redesign and you're looking at a remodel, or you're totally redoing that kitchen, is not just to look at that one little project. But the other thing I think we forget about sometimes is the kitchen is the hub of the home. And so sometimes when you tear up that kitchen, that gives us the ability to get wiring and infrastructure into other parts of the home, that now, while you have that open, is a great time to update some of the other areas in the house And because that kitchen is such a central hub to everything, it can be huge to get an integrator in so that you can talk about what are some of those things short-term and long-term that we could do while those walls are open, or before those cabinets go in, or while that island is open. And there's so many things that we can do, not only in the kitchen, but from that kitchen, opening up the opportunity for so many other things. Because we got to remember, these houses aren't for 5 years, they're 20 years and 50 years. And how do we prep them for the future?
Okay, how do we prep them for the future? I want to know what goes inside that island when you're thinking of demo day and that drywall is getting ripped out, for a client, and you're working with someone. What is your brain firing on with that opportunity?
Come on, Jamie.
Wire.
Wires.
Wire. We like wires. Contrary to what a lot of people think, not everything is wireless. And if there is something that's wireless, there may be a wired component to that. Sorry, I have to talk over whatever's happening back there.
You have competition.
So having a well-wired infrastructure will allow a lot of wireless signals to happen without interference throughout a house. If you have a Wi-Fi connected device, Kohler Connect was mentioned earlier. If you're doing a bathroom remodel and you don't consider the fact that there may not be Wi-Fi in that bathroom already, you're missing the point of even selling that product. So having the infrastructure, having the wire in place, ensuring that there's Wi-Fi connectivity in those areas where your clients will be, where our clients are, is really important. That's the best way to plan for the future, is to make sure there's Wi-Fi there, have some wire in place, and if not, conduit is a great friend to a lot of people.
I think in my notes I had written down conduit.
Yeah.
Wi-Fi as conduit was one of the
Yeah,
things
right.
that
Yeah, and I call it kind of indoor plumbing. Like we don't think about putting in faucets after a house is built. We don't think about indoor plumbing once the home is complete. But so many times, I as an integrator get a call after a project is done. And it's challenging sometimes to do what the client is asking. Sometimes we have to open the walls back up. And if you just finished a remodel, that has to be so disheartening. I know what that's like. I've gone through many remodels. It's a pain in the tush.
Well, and to build upon that, actually, when we did the NKBA bathroom technology survey, what we found from the consumer is they want a spa-like experience. They want it to be serene. They want to be able to disconnect. And they want to be able to read their emails. So they still want their smart devices in their bathroom, but they want this beautiful spa-like experience. And you know as well as I do, Murphy says that internet is coming in on that side of the house, and the bathroom is on that side of the house. So we need to have that infrastructure, as Jamie said, because it's that wireless component. Whether it's in the bathroom or whether it's in the kitchen, we still need that wire to that wireless pickup that can pick up all the wireless signals.
Well, and I think the important thing for everybody to understand is we're getting more and more of these devices. Everybody's coming out with something smart. They're putting a Wi-Fi connector or card in every one of these devices. The more devices you get on that network, the more congestion you have. Just look at trying to get here, right, this morning. The more people that are out there, the more congestion it is. By having an enterprise-level network put in and a wired infrastructure in place, we can segment where these guys have the express lane, so we can make sure that there's good connectivity and everything can work really, really well. It's kind of like when you go to a country road. I'm a country boy, so going in a country road, you got a couple, 2, 3 cars on the road, it's no problem. You get 10, things slow down. When you're in a highway, you can run 100 cars and have no problem. So it's really important to get the right infrastructure, because that's what everything builds upon. And the more and more devices, we just keep bringing home Fitbits and smart this and smart that. We're not thinking about how much it's weighing down our network and how much it's increasing the amount of traffic in our house. And so having a good plan with that is what an integrator can do. And it's really important to think about as we continue to see more and more devices and sensors.
The other thing we're really seeing with kitchen design is obviously the rise of the multi-use space. So we actually had an article featured in the Wall Street Journal recently that actually kitchens often, with open plan designs, often lead into sort of seating areas, or where families relax and watch movies. And through technology, you can actually have everything completely hidden away. So it's not necessarily obvious that there is a media room or relaxation space. So actually that's something that really, if you engage an integrator at the earliest stage of a project, you can really start to plan how you'll hide technology within maybe a kitchen space. So you're not having sort of how people would envisage like a traditional sort of home theater, which is like a sort of TARDIS in the basement of a house. You're actually having a sort of media room space that just adjoins a kitchen. All of that needs to be thought through. If you leave it too late on in the project, you can't hide the technology in such a way as that. So I think that's also something to consider when you're looking at kitchen designs.
I think one of the challenges is we're still unsure of what all the different use cases are going to be in the kitchen, right? Food is very different than watching TV. So I'm hearing a lot about like connectivity and high-speed data and making sure we're all kind of ready for that. But I'm excited about things like making sure our kitchen counters are a power source, right? Like when people just to set an Instant Pot on there and all of a sudden it's cooking. I don't actually have to have cords. Why can't my kitchen table be an interface and show video? So what's exciting about the kitchen is it's much more of a white space opportunity, I think, than the living room, which is, I think, a little bit more established from a form factor perspective. So I think it's a real exciting time for home system integrators and all these new kind of opportunities and applications that will open up over the next decade.
Well, we're talking even in the call about things that from that open floor plan that you might want to be able to control the sound in the next room, because I know I'm always trying to talk over the movie that's in the open floor plan house because we're trying to also have a conversation, and lighting and even just
shading as well.
Shadings, yeah absolutely. That there's a lot more to consider.
Well, and to build on the kitchen as well, how many designers do we have in the audience? All right, we're all designers. So envision this: you've designed, you've consulted with your customer. Your job is to really bring out what do they want, their vision, and then you design it, and you have architectural detail, and maybe you have some technology in there, like lighting control, so this way you can bring out that architectural detail. And it's absolutely beautiful. It's exactly what that client wanted. And then what happens? They come home with their family, and they've got 3 young boys, and since it's the hub of the house, everybody puts all their smart devices on that counter, plugs in all their smart devices, and now you have spaghetti all over the counter. But did you know that there's a manufacturer, Corian, who actually has it built into the countertop where you can put your devices down, they automatically charge. So now instead of taking away from your vision and your design by that spaghetti, it all goes away. And that's what we're talking about, leveraging smart technology to actually enhance your design and not take it away from it.
And that doesn't mean that you need to know every tidbit, widget, gadget, protocol, et cetera, that's out there. More to the point that integrators can help you make that vision a reality. We can listen to your clients and what they're asking for on a tech side. We can listen to what you want as a kitchen designer. And we can, as integrators, knowing all the product that we have an expo very similar to this, products you probably have never seen before. We can show that to you and enlighten you, enhance your design, in fact, either highlighting an aspect, maybe highlighting your tile, or making outlets fade away completely. There are so many options in the kitchen and bath space. It's really incredible.
I can't remember which one of you said it, but you'll probably all raise your hand. But I liked it when you said that think of having an integrator involved in your project the same way that you have your electrician, your tile installer, your plumber, that's another partner in the whole project. And that how that to not just think of that person as just an AV person or a tech person, they're also a designer. And they have the aesthetic to be able to suss out between all the products that are out there to decide define one that comes in white versus black and what's going to be round versus square. That integrators have a design aesthetic too, and that's applied to the technology.
Certainly. Now, maybe not every integrator thinks the same way. So there's certainly, as every kitchen and bath designer is different, every integrator is different. But you can find one in your area easily that you can collaborate with on projects. They could be a design resource for you. It's not just about the technology. My guess is that many of you would consider yourself a non-techie. But my guess is also that many of you have smartphones, maybe a laptop and an iPad or some kind of tablet in addition to that. Most homes have each person at least an average of 6 connected devices each. So whether you think of yourself as a techie or not, or whether you think of your clients as a techie or not, they will have technology in their kitchen and bath space, guaranteed.
And I think what's also really helpful to understand is just the difference in skill sets that a integrator has versus an electrician, which often is a go-to person,
Yeah.
or even an IT person that a lot of times a luxury client will have somebody that they know that works for them. An electrician, if you really look at them, they're fantastic guys, and they do a great job of running wire from here to there and hooking up things and connecting things. But their technology hasn't changed in 50 years. Nothing really has changed from Romex and in the electrical field other than now fixtures, right? So they haven't really seen that technician or that technology change like we've seen in our industry. And then you look at an IT world, and IT world is the most specialized world there is. When you get an IT guy, they may be a server-only person. They may be a end-user support person. And even though they may be IT, we think they're technology, they are really in a very specialized world where an integrator has to understand electrical, has to understand networking, has to understand the security protocols, has to understand shading, has to understand lighting design, has to understand acoustics. And so then you also think about how technology doesn't just stay, right? You don't just sell it once and it stays there. There's updates. There's hackers that are coming in and they have to make sure their firmware is updated. So there's elements that the integrator knows and can understand and can help service and support them as that technology continues to grow and evolve and develop. So that's another reason why having an integrator involved is such a huge part of things, because it's not just a one and done, you hook it up and now you never have to mess with it again. There are going to be updates and changes, and technology is going to improve and get better, and that's the one blessing we have, is that they're constantly listening. They're listening to you, they're listening to the end users, and they're trying to get it better every time. Now sometimes they don't get it, sometimes they make mistakes, but normally they resolve them fairly quickly now, and they've come a long way at listening to the client.
I think that's part of the fear factor that a lot of people have in technology is it's going to look outdated, and what happens when it breaks? Well, we can help you design around it looking outdated, and yes, at some point it will break or need help, and that's when a service person, an integrator, is there. It's not just install, walk away, and leave. It's there for the long haul. And oftentimes, we're there throughout entire generations. For kids that grow up, they leave the house, and then they look back at us and they go, do you remember who I used in my kitchen to do the thing? Can you refer me back to them? Or, maybe we found a problem in their house and we can, refer up the chain too. Like there's certainly, it's a bi-directional when it comes to collaborating on projects.
What's the line when you're trying to help people really understand what their technology needs are? Common phrases I've actually heard from members of my family are, I can turn a light switch on, right? Like, I don't need help with that. They're like, ooh, that faucet's pretty hard to turn on. That they just don't understand how it can be helpful and be a convenience. Where's that line between things that are convenience, a plug-and-play solution, and an integrated solution? Because you could end up with some serious spaghetti going on with all that. And is there reigning wisdoms about where those thresholds might be?
Well, this isn't, it's kind of related, but like I test all sorts of gadgets in the kitchen. I bought a beer brewing appliance. I'm playing with it. My wife
I had to test that too.
And my wife goes, what's wrong? Do they stop selling beer at the store? So it's like, it's
Great
technology for technology's sake. I think that oftentimes us in the technology world push that forward. But if you're someone like my wife, and we just went through a kitchen remodel, she just wants her life to be easier. And if technology gets in the way, if you need 3 steps because of the technology solution versus the one step of just turning it on the wall, I think that's where it breaks down.
So. Great point.
Yep.
Well, let me ask the audience, has anybody heard about, or does anybody see any value in controlling your toilet with your voice? Like, Alexa, flush my toilet?
I don't personally, but I know people who would.
No? No? It sounds crazy, right? Why do I need to say, Alexa, flush my toilet? Well, let me let you in on something. So, as I said before, I've got 3 young kids. So I have the only house in America that every single light switch only goes on, does not go off, and not one toilet in my house ever flushes. It's amazing. I don't know how I got this house, but this is where I live. So imagine that I'm running past the toilet, or I'm running past the bathroom, and I got to get these kids out, and I see and I can say, Alexa, flush my toilet. I mean, for me, that's a godsend. Now, let's think about it for aging loved ones. Yep. My grandmother, she's 93 years old. As you get older, you have a harder time moving around. You have a harder time sitting down. You have a harder time getting up. You have a harder time turning around. Well, if my grandmother was able to say, Alexa, flush the toilet, that's literally game-changing. Because where do most slip and falls happen? They happen in the bathroom. Why do they happen? They happen when somebody's trying to get up, low blood pressure, or when they're trying to bend over. So when you start looking about use cases, and you take something like the ability to flush your toilet with your voice, but really apply it to some real-world things. I mean, when we talk about our aging loved ones, there's 100 million people right now aged 65 and older in the US. So now that's a technology that can actually have a dramatic change for some people.
There's not enough capacity in North America and the US to take all the baby boomers and putting them into old folks' homes. Yeah. So this idea of extending our life in the place we love through technology, I think, is a massive opportunity. And that, I think, really applies in the kitchen, because there's like 2 or 3 startups basically doing technology just to help us shut off our stove when we forget it. And as we get older, we forget things. And the #1 cause of house fire, about 50% of house fires, are due to cooking incidents. So what if we just had technology to shut it off when we forget? So I think just those types of applications, aging in place, limited mobility are big opportunities.
Yeah, I think of my grandmother in a wheelchair in the 1970s. I was just telling the story over at one of the booths where my grandfather would take the cabinets open from under the kitchen sink. He somehow nixed out the center support bar, and he would roll her up, and she still wanted to wash some dishes. Well, now she could actually do that because she wouldn't have to reach forward for the faucet. I mean, it just...
Well, it's enabling that independence, right? So it's like, do you remember the first time you got your license and you finally were able to get away from the house? You got that taste of independence. Are you ever going to give it up? I'm not. So how can we enable everybody to live home and be independent for as long as possible? Because as you said, when we look at CCRCs or assisted living communities, there's only 1.7 million beds. And when we look at our aging loved ones at 100 million people that are 65 and older, we can't build enough. So what are we going to do?
Right. And that's just for those that are wanting to age in place. Right. But I'm 41.
You told me you were 29.
I'm 41. He called me almost in my 50s.
I said we were approaching 50. That's all I said.
Oh,
I'm 9 years away. So I'm still early 40s. But regardless, wouldn't it be nice to have some of those comfort conveniences like now? Or as you're going through a remodel, as you're designing a space, I'm big on lighting control. I think it's one of the things that should be in every home, smart lighting control. Every house has lights. We touch our lights every day. Let's make those really convenient, really impactful, save a lot of steps. You can save marriages by having a smart home. There are countless husband and wife debates over who left the garage door open, who left this on, who left this going, when you can have a sleep button, for instance, that just shuts it all down. And in the kitchen and bath, that's where a lot of renovations happen. That's a great place to start. You can start a smart home in your kitchen and then expand it throughout.
Jamie, I think you need to coin that. Smart home saved my marriage. That's awesome.
And it's saved, like, even from a design side. You know, you get typically the gentleman of the house saying he wants a television in this area so he can watch sports. Typically the female says, I don't want to see it, it's ugly, blah, blah, blah. Well, we have solutions that bring those together so it can be hidden when it needs to be hidden. It can be seen when it needs to be seen.
You don't
She's
have
happy,
that black
he's happy.
hole.
Yeah, everybody's happy. Yeah.
Are there some other things, other clients or specific examples you can remember where this technology was a real game changer in a way that we wouldn't have just said right now that we might think is more common? Do you think of any really unique situations that were aha moments for you?
None that would make it common. I have one project that was our very first home automation client about 15 years ago. She renovated her kitchen about 4 years ago to get the white kitchen that she always wanted. She loves the thing that you can't see in her kitchen the most, and it's music. It's invisible speakers. The way the ceiling laid out, the way the lighting fixtures laid out, the way everything laid out, it was going to be really obtrusive to put speakers in her kitchen. So we used invisible speakers, which lay in like a drywall patch. She loves it, and out of everything that she spent in her whole kitchen, when people come in, she's like, she gets all excited to show off music that you can't see.
And you know what, Jamie, also tell them about the wall acne that we've talked about so much.
Yeah, there's a lot of we call it wall acne, right? Thermostats, lighting switches, heating and cooling devices, security keypads. What else?
Everything, and they
Everything,
always tend to be
garage
either
door
in the
controls.
foyer or the kitchen.
Yeah.
So you have all of
Right.
these things. How
And
can
in
we
an
get rid
open
of all that?
concept, right? A lot of open concept kitchens, floor plans, so we have less wall space. So yeah, it all stacks up down in a hallway. Yeah.
Using technology, we can get rid of all that wall acne.
Right.
And I mean, we're really at the point where we can use an app, our phone, or smart devices to control the whole house. You're still going to want some, switches and stuff in there for redundancy, but again, it's all about making things easy and, of course, getting our little beer thing. I like
Yeah.
that.
Well, and speaking of it, like it's when you're in your kitchen, earlier it was referred to as the hub of the house. I mean, think about all the stuff that really happens there outside of cooking. It's in my family, like everything happens in the kitchen. Arguments happen in the kitchen. Family dance parties happen in the kitchen. Homework is happening in the kitchen. I feed my dogs are in the kitchen. I've got dogs at my feet when I'm cooking. Like life happens in the kitchen, and if you have the ability to change it, impact it, make it a little more convenient, it's a great place to start.
Yep. So what kind of feedback do you get from clients, or have you gotten over time that maybe 5 to 10 years down the line, the woulda, shoulda, couldas? Like, what are some of the things that, if I could just done that 5 years ago, but I let scope creep hold me back?
I'm going to echo what Jamie was saying before, wire. It always comes up. The biggest suggestion we have is wire for everything you think you want to do in the future, because later on, we don't have to open up walls. You already have a wire there. Wire is cheap when you're pre-wiring. Labor is also inexpensive because the whole house is open or the kitchen is open. That's the best thing to do. And then in the future, it gives us options. So whatever comes out, whatever new gadget, whatever new smart device, whatever it is, now we have that ability to hook it up.
I would say for my clients, the majority of them, that there's two concepts. There's some systems that they really, really enjoy, and there's some concepts that they often say. They always regret when they don't do it right the first time.
Yeah.
Always. I've never had a client come back in 27 years saying, we did it the right way and I wish I wouldn't have done it. I've never had that. And yet we've always had people that tried to be penny wise and were trying to do it in the right way, but sometimes they were pound foolish. And so I think that's where us as designers have to help inform them that they could be making a short-sighted view and that there is a long game to this, and that you never will regret doing it right the first time. So that's kind of just from the concept side of things. And then the two subsystems that I find that clients just absolutely love, our lives are getting more stressful, not less stressful. So music, it calms the troubled beast. It can change the tone and the whole aspect of your household, like it being the hub. It can calm everybody. It can excite everybody to get out and let's get cleaning, or let's get the yard done, or get to school and get good grades, or whatever it might be. But it also can just create an atmosphere that really is beneficial. And then lighting control, I'm going to echo that as well. I think that's probably more of the non-techies. Once they get a taste of lighting control, they're like, I'm never going back. I wish I would have had that sooner. And I think that's probably the biggest thing, that the two subsystems that I would say are really beneficial, other than the wiring and the Wi-Fi.
Makes sense?
Yeah.
Giles, what do you think?
I was going to say the same thing, actually. Lighting control is one of those things that's very hard to implement unless you plan for it right at the start. And it's one of the ones that is often most regretted that you don't actually put into the home. There are retrofit solutions, but you can't actually beat wiring a lighting control properly from the start. And the other one is shading. I was going to say shading solution. That's one which is often looks like it's a bit of a high budget when you're actually talking to a homeowner right from the start. And there are retrofit solutions from manufacturers like Lutron and other manufacturers out there. But actually, that's one that often comes up later is the motorized shading, because a room may be a lot brighter, a lot warmer than you were actually expecting when you were actually initially just looking at the plans for the project. So that would come up time and time again.
Well, it's interesting. We keep on saying lighting control. Obviously, we like it, but lighting control also brings out that architectural detail that you guys work so hard at. Yeah. And again, when we're talking about a kitchen, how many forms of light do we have, right? We have task lighting. We have lighting that's over, let's say, underneath the cabinets. We've got kick lighting. We've got lighting that's in the cabinets, especially if you have glass in the cabinets. That's the part of the house that has the most amount of lighting circuits. And yes, do we need lighting control? I can get up and I can push a switch, just like you can get up and turn your TV on. How many people do that? Right, you've got the remote. And it's like anything else. It's like having music in the house. Do I need that? No, I could listen to it through my phone or something. But when you have it, boy, it's nice.
Yeah.
So again, it's a little bit less stress, right?
Well, even
like
from cooking, being able to see the right vegetables, and when you're using knives, it's always good to have good lighting, right?
I don't have clients because I'm not a home system integrator, so I'll just think about what I would want maybe 5-10 years in the future, which I think could be businesses for you guys.
Yeah.
I think one is a white space opportunity in the kitchen is just a video screen. So you're starting to see some companies like GE, a few others. There's actually one company at CS demoing basically an induction cooktop that actually was a touchscreen video screen.
I saw that.
Think about having video in the kitchen natively integrated. That could be really exciting. I think app-controlled, controllable surfaces, having them move. So imagine grandma's co-living with you, having this height of the kitchen countertop move down her size. I think that's something that could be really exciting in the future. And then lastly, I think sustainability is just something we all need to focus more in on. So just having kitchens that help us in some way reduce food waste and just kind of manage our food more. I don't see a lot out there for you guys right now, but I think in a few years' time, I think there'll be more for you guys to work with there.
Well, you're talking about the cameras in the kitchen. There was actually, I saw it last year and this year, and I think it was KitchenAid. And basically, above the stove, where you would normally put a microwave oven, there was a screen, and that had multiple cameras built into it. So the question is, well, why do I need cameras in my kitchen? The use case is this. It's a scenario where the camera is looking at the cooktop, and let's say it's your first date, and you're cooking for your date. The ability to call mom or dad and say, hey, how do I make that what mom used to make when I was younger? The ability to see that real time. The other use case is, well, if you're a Ramsay's fan, right? And you're looking at the professional chef, envision a world where you can have semi-professional chefs cooking in their own kitchen. And literally you can have Gordon Ramsay looking at you and maybe 20 other people and literally seeing exactly what's going on in the kitchen. Your flame's too hot, you gotta add this, you gotta do that. Again, that's using technology today. It's an amazing thing.
Peloton for the kitchen, basically.
Exactly. Yeah, it is.
Now that I would buy into. I'm gonna get
Sold.
one of those big bikes. No, I'm not gonna do that. What are some of the most positive experiences that you have seen or been a part of yourselves between integrators and design? Like, is there anything that we haven't talked about where, like, how do you get to that point where you find the right person for you? What do those conversations and experiences look like?
Well, start with CEDIA.org, right-hand side top, put in your zip code, and find yourself a couple of technologists, right? It's just like Peter was saying before. You have your electrician, you have your plumber, you have your contractor, you have the people that you get your cabinets from. Well, now you have a technologist by leveraging CEDIA. These are the guys that know technology. And really, what our job is to make you look good. Yeah. And the second part of that is get us in as early as possible. Because just like when you're qualifying your customer and you're asking them all that lifestyle questions, what would you like it to look like? Or your bathroom, you want that spa-like. Or you stayed in the Encore Hotel and it's beautiful. I want that feeling in my own home. When you're going through all that and you've qualified that customer, bring in the technology guy as fast as possible because we can then ask those secondarily questions. You know, what's important to you? Are you ever going to use are you ever going to check your phone in the bathroom? Or how many kids do you have in the family? How many people? So your kitchen is where you're doing your work, and everybody's doing their homework and stuff. You know, that's putting demands on the wireless. So getting them in as fast as possible will lead to a beautiful, easy, less stressful job for all of us.
I think. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead, John.
I was going to say. I think a lot of the concerns that designers and architects have when they start to look at working with an integrator is that they're going to be sold to right from the start, right from the initial conversation, and it's going to eat into the interiors budget. And I think this is where having a good relationship with an integrator in your local market is so important. Like when I left my integration firm, I had relationships with architects or designers that had lasted, you know, maybe 10 years. And actually, we would have architects that would come to us with those plans, and we'd actually offer advice right from the start of the project. And actually, the architect, we would almost finish each other's sentences, is the way I would explain it. Is we would work together so much that actually they'd understand a little bit about the technology, but also know the questions to ask the homeowner right from the start, so that they could actually come to me, and actually then we'd be able to scope out a project and give some of that initial advice and some budget right from the start, and not have that fear of like being sold to, right? Like going into a retail store. And that's really the difference, I think, between working with an integrator and working with a retailer, a consumer electronics retailer, is they'll often offer that advice, budget advice, right at the start of the project, and you don't have that fear of they're just going to sell to me from day one, you know, which is immensely off-putting. And I think, just also to say is that actually one of those enlightening things is that we follow the same process that designers and architects do. So we have a design process. We have a specification process. We curate all of that confusing technology that's out there in the same way that designers curate designs for their project, looking at the sort of all the different design elements that are available. And that's what we do. We then come up with a specification, and then we'll only at that point install the system and then support it, as we've said, for years and years after. So I think that is also sort of the aha moment that a lot of designers and architects have when they start to talk to an integrator. It's like, whoa, there's a whole lot more that you offer us in terms of value. It's not just putting a TV on the wall. Right. Putting a speaker in the ceiling.
Beyond AV, for sure.
Right.
And I was just going to say the two things that I would suggest. One is we want to keep learning from you as well. So make sure if that integrator's not listening to you, you know, that's an important part of it, because there's so much we can learn about kitchen and bath design from you that you guys know that we don't know. And that's that respect and that teamwork and that building that dream team, you know, is really the key thing. And I think that dream team is something that 10 years ago, CEDIA brought all of the top architects, builders, and interior designers and kitchen and bath designers together for a weekend and said, what are your most successful projects and why? And you know what every one of them said? When you get a great team, you get together up front, you solve the problems initially, you respect each other, and then all of a sudden you go make a plan and you go execute the plan.
Right.
And you're not coordinating as you're going along and designing on the fly, but you're solving the problems and working together and valuing each other up front. Build that dream team, and you'll be amazed at how much better that experience is for everybody. And you know, I think that's just really that respect that we can have for each other, that there's so much that you guys know, there's so many things you're thinking of that you have to look at, and we just want to try to help you get your vision executed.
Can you give us an example of one of the most souped up houses you've worked on? Just the one that had all the things to like just set our minds on fire for all the potential things we could control.
If you can dream it, we can do it.
Yeah, well,
Giles.
Giles has.
I worked on some fun properties in London.
People talk a lot about scenes, like setting scenes, and how these technologies then talk to each other. So you can pretty much roll out of bed, and short of like the Jetsons and them putting your clothes on for you, you're set. But,
right. Well, we know who Iron Man is, right?
Know.
Jarvis?
Yes.
We could do that. But he's probably has some more realistic.
Well, the thing is, when you work in a city like London, and it's the same as a lot of big cities here in the US as well, is square footage is premium, right? So you actually end up using, like I said earlier, you sort of working on a lot of multi-use spaces. So And in London, there's a lot of basement conversions. So I worked on some homes that had 3 basement levels, for example. So actually, they go 3 stories below the ground, and one of them would have a swimming pool on it. You'd have a gym on another one, and you'd have a home theater on one of those floors. I also worked on a home that that had an underground squash court, and also had a dance floor that actually converted into a swimming pool. The dance floor would sink, and it would actually convert into a whole swimming pool. So that was kind of fun.
Just like
that
It's
was
a
Richard
Wonderful
Branson's
Life.
old house.
Oh, man.
But that was kind of fun.
Yeah. And so then what other kinds of, like, what technologies, like, what's the most, like, touch-free project you've ever worked on?
I would say for me, the big thing is just understanding what true smart technology is. This term is used
Right.
a lot right now.
Right.
Just because they have an app and they connect in the cloud doesn't make it a smart technology, right?
Right. Nope.
We like to use 3 terms that are really, really important to understand. Automation. What is automation? Automation is taking a repetitive task you do every day and programming a computer to do it once, and then it keeps doing it for you. So the key fob on your car, you program your settings for your pedals, where you want your seat. You come up, the key fob reads, and it automatically adjusts. So when myself, who's 6'5", and my wife, who's 5'6", when we get into the cars, it knows and it adjusts accordingly. That's what automation does. Automated thermostats, right? You used to always go here and there, and now you can program it once and it does it consistently. Second is integration. That's where true smarts comes in. When you start talking to each other, you can get so many life safety beauties from having true integration. Because when the security system knows it's you, now it can say, all right, hey, I love to have jazz music on in the kitchen. I love the lighting to be at 3/4 level. I love the temperature to be at 68 degrees. And I want to be able to open the shades because I want to be able to see out and enjoy this beautiful day. And then it could kick on the TV to home and garden TV, whatever it might be. So that's true integration when all of these things are talking to each other. And so a great example of life safety is if all of a sudden the smoke alarms go off, it can not only call the security company and call the monitoring and the fire company, but it also can turn on the lights and so everybody can see. It can shut off the blowers on the HVAC so it doesn't blow smoke through the house. It can flash the lights outside. It can play a voice message from the mom and saying, hey, everybody, remember, stay low. Our safe place is by the tree. And these are just some of the things that can be done by them all talking together. That's true smart technology and integration. And then the last is connectivity. And that's simply how Wi-Fi now and cellular has really given us, with these smart devices, the ability to manage and control things all the time. So we have a lot of Chicago clients that have second homes on the other side of the lake. And so a lot of them, to be able to leave and then turn on their house and hit it in the home mode. And when they get there now, it's cooled down. The lights are on, so she's not coming into a dark house. All of a sudden the temperature or the sound is on, and they're ready to go to start enjoying their weekend instead of getting there and waiting that evening to start the next day enjoying the house.
That's true.
I
Or
wanted to
wondering if the pipe froze in the middle of winter in
Correct.
Wisconsin.
Yeah, well, you got a text
Right.
message for that, so you don't have to worry
Right.
about it, right?
Right.
One thing I just want to add on to the automation, I saw maybe a couple of you kind of pulling back when Peter was going through what an automated house could look like. Just because it's set to automate a certain function or feature doesn't mean that the user has no control over it anymore.
Yeah.
There's always still that user control over those spaces, over those scenes, over those automated events. So when you hear of home automation and you're thinking, oh, I can't do anything outside of that, that's not true. You actually have many points of override where you can go to a keypad and adjust a light, go to a volume, not a knob, I almost said a volume knob. Open your app and
back
lower
in
the
the
volume
day.
or turn it off, or change what you're happening to listen to. Maybe that day you don't want to listen to jazz, right?
I think often the terminology for our industry does freak people out. I think automation, and I'm not a huge fan of smart home. I mean, I think smart home conjures up the idea that your home is doing things without you knowing.
Right.
I actually prefer, I don't want a smart home, I want a simple home. And that's actually what I think we're all in the business of doing. And actually, smart home, I think a lot of the time, people, it freaks people
No, I
out
love
too
that.
much,
Yeah,
right?
Yep. But then sometimes I think they get scared when you say, I have an integrated home or I have an automated. Like, what's more scary than the other? We all have a little leap to make with a term.
And
Right.
therein lies the whole reason why we're here.
That's right.
Because
Absolutely.
there's certainly all of these questions, all these hesitations, fears, etc. is why I get the call after the project. Hey, I just finished this remodel, and you know, we're trying to break through that and work with design build professionals so that we can come ahead of those things and teach and educate you. It's not scary if we think about this and plan it ahead of time.
Yeah. Because our clients are really smart and you guys are really smart. It's really just getting our heads together and solving it. There's the technology and the solutions available to make it simple and reliable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the word more. I want to make sure that you're all catching CEDIA, that it is CEDIA. So we're probably speaking in
Yeah.
acronyms. And I
Yeah,
thought,
right.
better make sure that you know that, where you can go to find integrators in your area. And remind me what CEDIA stands for, because I always forget.
This doesn't help either.
Okay, good.
It's
More words.
So bear in mind this was 30 years ago. So that's also another thing that's surprising about the association, as people aren't aware of, is that actually it's a 30-year-old association. People were installing technology in the home 30 years ago. But yes, it stands for the Custom Electronic Design and Installation Association. So yeah, just call it CEDIA.
Yeah, all right. We have a couple just really quick fire questions I want to ask, and then we'll open up some things to the floor over there. Oh, good, I don't have to hop down. We have a mic. So I know we probably already covered some of these, but just to reemphasize the points for you guys, when is the right time to bring in an integrator?
Early.
As early as possible.
In the beginning. Security worries. What do you say to a client to ease their mind about the concern of security?
Don't use the default password or username, please. And don't make it easy. Don't make them easy either. You don't want an easy username and you don't want an easy password. I know it's a pain in the tush because you have to remember something very complex, but trust me, that's the biggest part of security.
I think we nailed this one already. What's the best decision to make for technological longevity in your home?
Wire.
Wiring. I think we got to that one. Yep, for sure.
Enterprise level network.
And that's also with what'll keep your system from outdating.
Yeah.
Yep.
Unless I always think, here's the skeptical journalist in me, what if they come up with a new wire?
We can
They
still
will.
work on old wires.
Yeah.
Apple.
Because there's all kinds of cables that didn't exist when we got our first
Very true.
VHS,
True.
back in the 80-something.
Conduit is your friend.
Conduit is the friend. And then what about cost ranges for systems? Because I know there's a lot of maybe a fear factor or a complete lack of knowledge of not wanting to offend or wonder how much money, what's a threshold of entry in some of these systems?
I mean, it's really gotten much, much less expensive. Think Ring doorbell is $149, a Nest thermostat's $249, some smart light bulbs are $49 each. So you could very easily get into a situation for a couple of $100 to make an impact and make your life a little bit easier. And with that said, it can go to.
But that's more a do-it-yourself scenario. That's
That
really
is
not
true.
a good
Right.
analogy, I don't think, for this particular group. You know, that's really more of a concern when somebody
Right.
is doing their own,
Right.
because they don't
Yeah.
understand the ramifications
Yeah.
of that.
So that the low point of entry.
Yeah,
The low
Right.
point,
I
yeah.
would
Starting
say
at DIY.
typically we've used the 5 to 15%.
I was just going to ask if you had a
Project cost
percent. Yeah.
is a good kind of ballpark number.
Right.
And it just depends on the level of discreteness, you know, to get something beautiful and elegant. Sometimes that costs more, right? We all know that. You guys deal with that all the time too. Or if you want to go motorized and hidden, then obviously there's going to be more cost associated with that. But as a general rule of thumb, I think that's a pretty good ballpark rule. And so if you have less systems and you're just focused on one system, it may be that 5 to 10. If you step into more systems, then you're going to be more on that 10 to 15. And then obviously you can blow it out of the
Yeah,
water.
from there,
and then
sky's the
certainly
limit.
there are some times when we can bring it back. But I think the big key is to make sure you have a strategic vision of where they want to go. Use strategic planning to say, all right, where do you want to be in 20 years? And if your budget only allows you to start here, at least have a plan of where you're going.
Yeah.
Then you can work towards it.
The wiring and the conduit
Correct.
for 20
Always
years from
comes
now.
back to
Right.
that.
To
Well,
that.
and I think the other question we can ask ourselves is, how much does it cost if we do it after? right?
Right.
Because there is a much higher cost when you do things after a house is already built. Again, another reason to be a part of that design and that budgetary phase is so you get that all fleshed out early on. And if you go down the road and you explore some intelligent technology in your kitchen and you decide, oh, that's not right for me, well, at least you knew, you made that decision, you knew the cost, and you chose to not to. But it was a consideration. And that's really all we're asking, is that you consider technology just as you would mechanical, electrical, plumbing in your kitchen and bath design.
Infrastructure.
Yep.
Brilliant. All right. We have our microphone person over here. Are there any questions that weren't addressed? I love it in the front row. I love a
She
good
was ready.
front row question person.
So 5 to 15% of what?
Of the project cost. Yeah. Great question.
All right, come on, guys.
Others,
More
come
questions.
on.
I know you have a lot of questions.
There's one over there.
Seems like one of the scary things is the whole hacker. We watch Mission Impossible movies where they take control of buses and all this nonsense. What about people worried about that? How hard is that? Is that a big deal? Is that a fear that's easy to allay?
So our industry is getting much, much better. And I say our industry, I mean the technology industry. So think of CES 2 weeks ago here. If you look 5 years ago, product was much more hackable, and unfortunately it happened. Since then, there's been a real increase in encryption on all the products. Now, with that said, do you know what our biggest problem is? Our biggest problem is the consumer. And the reason why is, as Jamie was saying before, most things come with some kind of username and password. And let's say you go to a big box store and buy it, or even off of Amazon, and you put that new router in just because you need new wireless, and you fail to change your username and password, and somebody can just Google it and put admin and find it. That's actually our biggest problem. So our biggest problem is educating the consumer to simply do this. You have a keyboard. The keyboard has big letters and small letters. It has numbers and it has hieroglyphics. Use everything on that keyboard. The risks are really minimized now. And the question was, if they do, how big or how bad are the risks?
Yeah.
And again, every day, things are getting tighter and encryption is getting better. And I'm sure he was just going to say this because I could see in his eye. That's why you hire a professional, because we know how to set everything up. So we're backing you up, and we understand how to train the family on what to do and what not to do.
Right. And what I was just going to say is there's kind of a good and a bad to it. The good is the fact that, you know, they're getting multi-level encryption where you have to have multiple levels to be able to do it. And so everybody has really come a long way, and we're starting to educate more and more the consumer to call us so that we can make sure it gets set up on the network quickly. So it's not like they buy a toy for the kid and all of a sudden it's a Wi-Fi thing and they throw it on the thing, and next thing you know, that's the weakest link, right?
Right.
But I also like to try to help educate people to be real. They can hack the government. If they can hack a government, you think they can't hack a home? If they really want to get to us, you know, that's what we're trying to do, is make that harder and harder. And that's what all we can do is be diligent and trying to keep adjusting and changing and going through the proper protocols, just like a corporation is doing, and so on and so forth. So it's just the reality. I mean, they're hacking cars, right? How much money have they spent to try to minimize that? So we got to be real and open about that and honest about it and try to do our best and set good practices. But the reality is you know, it's a new world. And they're going after the government. The reality is, are they going to come after Peter Cook in Kalamazoo, Michigan?
I'm coming after Peter.
They definitely, they're definitely coming.
More than likely, no. But, you know, all you can do is try to do your good password protocols.
Just to trail off of that a tiny bit, because sometimes hacking leads into other control or other concerns about Big Brother when it comes to voice control. If it's free or cheap and you don't read the terms of conditions, you as a consumer are opening yourself up. So there are, when it comes to the voice control aspect, the Big Brother aspect, you can mute Alexa or have a device in your house that maybe doesn't go to the cloud but still controls the home. And there are devices out there that do this. So just be mindful that if you have that cheap and or free device and or app, chances are it's taking your data in some way. And it's probably really just trying to sell you more socks. I mean, there's really nothing more malicious than that.
Oh, another question right here.
It's the microphone.
How are you storing your very complicated passwords?
We use a system called LastPass. It's a
good. You like that one?
Yeah, I love it.
Oh, okay,
it's a
good.
web-based program, lastpass.com. Lastpass.com. We use it internally to manage our clients' usernames and passwords. When we send our technicians out, it shows up as asterisks, so they don't see them at all. And you just have to remember your one password to LastPass, which I sometimes forget mine. So forget my one password I need to remember. But
I'm glad to know you like that one. 'Cause
I
that's
do.
the one that I'm on the verge of looking at.
I do.
So,
I like
okay,
it a lot.
good.
And we use LastPass. We have a client he's a business owner. He uses LastPass within his business, and we share our profile with him for his house, so that anytime that he makes a change in his system, we're updated in real time. It's really effective. I don't know what you guys use. I just know that's what
No,
we
I agree, 100%.
Awesome. I think I was getting the hand signals that we are out of time. But if anyone had another question, I don't know, some folks might be around for a few more minutes afterwards.
out.
But thank you, Kohler, for sponsoring the session today. And thank you, guys. I always learn all sorts of new things every time we're together on this topic. Thank you for
folks.
coming.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you, everybody.